All right, so a black man spends 47 years in prison in Louisiana. He is paroled. He is paroled. He is literally walking out of prison. And what do the idiots in Louisiana do? They arrest him on parole violations. Yeah, y'all. March 18th, Louisiana Board of Pardons and Committee on Parole unanimously voted that Bobby Sneed should be released from Angola prison. But he remained in prison 9 months after his parole date, following 2 court decisions ordering his release. What's going on there? Thomas Frampton, an associate professor of law at the University of Virginia out of Charlottesville. He is the attorney for Mr. Sneed. Glad to have you here, Thomas Frampton. I'm confused. He's arrested, walking out of prison. When did this release happen? When did he walk out of prison? When was he arrested?
So this whole ordeal actually goes back, as you said, till March. He actually should have been released 9 months ago. But about 2 days before Bobby's release, after 47 years in prison, he collapsed. So he's in Angola prison. He has a heart attack. His heart stops. He's actually resuscitated. And they bring him to the hospital. They save his life. It turns out that he had COVID. He had a severe case of hypoxia, of pneumonia in his lungs. But then when his release date comes and goes, instead of releasing him, they just bring him back to the prison, alleging that he didn't have a heart attack, that he had a drug overdose. Now, he's cleared of those charges. He is ultimately—
Wait, hold on. They said he had a drug overdose, which means that he was in the hospital, meaning that was a toxicology report.
That's right. And there are a couple issues there. One of them is that they injected him with opiates as soon as he collapsed. So any toxicology reports showing opiates doesn't really tell you a whole lot. The other big issue, though, was that there was no proof that the sample that they actually tested was Bobby's. So he was cleared of wrongdoing related to that. But nevertheless, they kept him in a prison cell. We've been fighting that case for about 9 months, and the Louisiana Supreme Court eventually agreed with us. They sided with us that Bobby has been held in violation of the 14th Amendment, that he has essentially been kidnapped ever since March 29th of this year. So we all yet again celebrated Bobby coming home. We had folks there at the prison gates ready to welcome him. But literally at the moment of his release, after 47 years, the Louisiana Parole Board rearrested him yet again and took him now to a parish jail. And they're arguing that he committed a separate parole violation. At some point during these past 9 months, while he hasn't been out on parole, but while he's been a prisoner still in Angola the entire time.
So this is a photo here of Bobby Sneed that we have up right now. What is strange and crazy about this particular case is that so he gets rearrested. So where do we stand now? I mean, you literally have two judicial decisions saying release the man. What the hell is Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards is doing? What is he doing? I mean, what's going on? So Bobby's just sitting there in prison, like in limbo?
Yes. We are now in federal court. We're in front of a federal judge in the Middle District of Louisiana. But to answer your question, it's become increasingly clear as this saga has gotten more and more absurd over the past 9 months that until a federal judge sends in federal troops to actually enforce the U.S. Constitution, it does not seem like Louisiana officials have any interest whatsoever in respecting the 14th Amendment or the First Amendment. I mean, part of what's the subtext here is that Bobby has been outspoken about his case. He has been critical of prison officials, especially after this ordeal of the past 9 months. And so they're trying to teach him a lesson, and they're going to keep retaliating against him until literally a federal judge sends in federal authorities. I don't see any other end game here at this point.
What was so strange here, I'm reading this particular piece here, and it says that in early May, Sneed was acquitted of a charge in prison. And this is what is hilarious. It said, however, so he was acquitted. However, a single member of the parole board moved to rescind Sneed's parole. The following week, the parole board convened a second hearing during which Sneed was not able to present evidence, call witnesses, or view the evidence against him. The board voted to strip Sneed's parole. I mean, first of all, what was he put in prison for? Why are they so desperate to keep this man in prison when he's been there for 47 years?
Right. So you might think that Bobby, based on sort of the way they've been acting as some kind of serial killer, 47 years ago, after serving honorably in the U.S. military and being honorably discharged after Vietnam, Bobby served as a lookout for what was supposed to be a burglary. Now, the people that actually went into the house killed one of the homeowners, and that's an absolute tragedy. Bobby takes full responsibility for his role in that. But he has been serving time for murder, for essentially being a lookout to a burglary ever since then. You brought up this hearing in May. One of the state court judges who ordered him released, a Baton Rouge judge, one of the few black judges that Bobby has been in front of this entire time, referred to that proceeding as, quote, "I don't know if you want to call it a hearing or a lynching." And that's an accurate question. What has been happening to Bobby over the past 9 months has the veneer of a legal proceeding, but in reality, it resembles nothing close to what we would think the rule of law should look like in America.
Are there any state officials who are clamoring for the man to be released? I mean, who's speaking up for him?
Every top level state official has been doing everything they can to clean their hands of this. We've talked to the Secretary of the Department of Public Safety and Corrections, reached out to the governor's office, and at every turn we get, well, this is just up to the parole board. Now, I don't buy that, right? The governor or the secretary, they could make this end tomorrow. But a lot of the responsibility really rests here with these unaccountable bureaucrats that make up the Louisiana Parole Board, who just have incredible amounts of power. And frankly, I think have gotten accustomed to abusing that sort of discretion and power that they wield.
You wrote this too in a briefing, which is, I mean, it's laughable. You said Mr. Sneed could not have committed a parole violation on November 9th, 2021, because he was not released on parole until December 10th, 2021.
Yeah, so this is going to be the first ever parole violation in Louisiana history, as far as I can tell, where somebody is accused of violating their parole a month before they were actually released on parole. Wow. During the past 9 months, Bobby Sneed also didn't meet with his parole officer like he was supposed to. He didn't send monthly reports in. He wasn't paying his $63 supervision fee. And I have no doubt that, he could be revoked for parole violations for each of those things too. Of course, that's absurd. He wasn't a parolee. He was a prisoner for the last 9 months where he was being held illegally by Louisiana state officials. But they don't seem to have any kind of interest in following the law. And the other really crazy thing about this case, throughout this whole time, even if you accept that Bobby used drugs on 1 or 2 occasions, which is one of the allegations, paying $25,000 or $30,000 a year of taxpayer money to keep him incarcerated, a man who just turned 75 years old, when we've lined up private charities, like, look, if they want him to go to a drug treatment, we'll pay for it out of our own pockets. But the level of vindictiveness, of spite that is animating this is really just off the charts.
That is absolutely crazy. Please certainly keep us up to date. What happens in this case, whatever we can do, we certainly will love to do that. But this is just crazy. Thomas Frampton, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for having me and for shining some light on what's going on with this case in Louisiana.
I appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Now I'm going to bring in my panel. I want to bring in now Xavier Pope, who joins us. He, of course, host of Suit Up News, owner of the Pope Law Firm. Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor for the environmental justice at the EPA. Mario Solomon Simmons, civil rights attorney and founder of Justice for Greenwood. Glad to have all three of you here. Xavier, start with you. This is nuts.
I've never seen anything like this, Roland. What I wanted to ask his lawyer was, what was the cause of him passing out, which required him to have some sort of treatment? I know there was a toxicology report that showed some use of amphetamines or drug use, but what was the cause that made him pass out? And what was his diet like? What was he fed? And why did this cause him to be in a position where this would?
Well, what Frampton said he had a heart attack.
Okay, got it.
That's what happened. He had a heart attack. And he said they had to revive him. So they obviously had to put drugs into him. I mean, this is nuts.
Yeah, that's a weird situation, Roland. And if this has happened and then this was dropped from his case, the only reason that they are potentially keeping him in jail has everything to do with maybe some political motivations than it does than him actually getting out of jail and being.
Bro, this is Louisiana. This is Louisiana that incarcerates more people per capita than any other state in America. No, this is Louisiana. Louisiana is absolutely one of the most heinous states in America when it comes to prisons. And what you're dealing with people who are petty. And for them, just keep folks in prison forever. That's really what you're dealing with here. There's no explanation. This case went to the Supreme Court, DeMario. They kicked it back to a Baton Rouge judge. The Baton Rouge judge said, release him. They're like, damn that.
You know, Angola, where he's incarcerated, is a plantation. It is a plantation. And so the Louisiana criminal justice or the prison system grew up out of enslavement, which is a profit motive. And the sharecropping is a profit motive. And when they put these brothers and sisters in prison, it's a profit motive. They are there to work like slaves. I mean, literally picking cotton, picking corn, cutting sugar cane. This is all what's going on. But one of the things I really want to focus on, Roland, and this very important segment, is what the brother was in prison for. He did 47 years. They say he was a lookout. This is something that I see constantly for young brothers and sisters getting caught up what they call felony murder. And this is something that our community needs to understand, that these felony murder charges, you don't have to be the one that pulled the trigger. You don't have to be the one that killed the person. If you actually there, you know, I was watching 48 hours, another 48 hours, one of the shows was showing people getting killed and the police trying to figure out who did it. This past weekend is a mindless TV. And everybody goes in there and say, oh, I didn't actually shoot him. No, I didn't actually stab him. I was there, but I didn't know what was going to happen. You still get caught with felony murder. I don't think felony murder is a good doctrine, but it is a doctrine that most states have. And our people need to be careful about that, particularly our young people, who you going around with, who you hanging out with, and who you are getting in the car with. My grandma used to say, I need to know who you're getting in the car with. So I think that's also a part of this story, Roland.
I think Thomas Frampton is still with us. You sure there, Thomas?
I am, if you can hear me.
Yep, hear you, and I can see you as well. So we got you. But here's what I find to be real interesting. As Mario was talking, I thought about Wilbert Rito, who gained significant fame by winning numerous journalistic awards in the Angola prison, and he was released. He served 44 years, and he was convicted of first-degree murder. Okay, now again, here's what I find to be interesting, and again, I'm not saying Rito should have been kept in prison, because he literally was a model prisoner, was rehabilitated, and was eventually released from prison. Rito spent 44 years in Angola for murder that he committed. Sneed has spent 47 years in prison, and he was the lookout. Sounds like it's some folks who hate Bobby Sneed and they want this man to die in prison.
Well, they hate Bobby Sneed and they hate a lot of other people too. There's 5,000 people in Louisiana serving life without parole sentences. That's second only to Florida, which has about 9,000 people serving life without parole sentences. All the studies that we have, all the statistics show that when somebody gets to be that old, the chances of them ever committing another crime are absolutely minuscule. But your other panelists were right to talk about this in the context of how criminal justice works in Louisiana, and specifically to talk about it within the context of race, right? Black folks make up 33% of the population of Louisiana. They're 52% of the jail population. They're 67% of the prison population. And they're much higher than that in terms of the percentage serving life without parole sentences. So part of this is just that there's a class of people who the state of Louisiana has decided are disposable. And despite posing no real risk to any kind of notion of public safety, the state is happy to keep spending taxpayer money to keep them in cages.
In fact, Xavier, I'm trying to find. I'm looking through these tweets. Mustafa's there as well. Mustafa, I'm gonna go with you. I'm looking for the tweet. ProPublica the other day posted a story that dealt with the number of folks who were juveniles who committed crimes and how Louisiana has gone back on their word, how they are keeping folks in prison. I mean, this is a state. This is a state that is wedded to prison. It's a broke state. It's not like they've got significant resources, and they would rather keep spending hundreds of thousands of dollars imprisoning people versus releasing them. Mustafa, I think you're on mute. All right, keep talking. We still can't hear you, Mustafa. So Xavier, you can answer that question to Keenan. You can work with Mustafa to figure out what's going on. Xavier, go ahead.
This is just a violation of the Constitution. And it's also a breaking of the promise by a state that cares more about a governor. It was a judge. We just talked about a judge just recently using the N-word in her cases being reviewed. And here we are right back in the state of Louisiana, where there is a man in prison when he should be out of prison. And the state putting their resources more into keeping this man in prison than making sure that there is no miscarriage of justice by a judge who refers to those that enter her courtroom potentially as N-words.
It is certainly an absolutely unbelievable story. And again, we're going to keep our eye on this story, keep people abreast of what's going on with it as well. Thomas Frampton, thanks a lot.
Thank you again.
Back to our Roland Martin Uncultured video in just one moment.
Time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A Black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on there.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared. You dig? Bye.